let's see how we can go from that SQL endpoint into Excel and start to use that data in our processes.
Sounds good. Share my screen here. Starting at the Fabric homepage, we're going to navigate to the data engineering section and pull up our Lakehouse SQL endpoint. So as you can see from previous videos, we have our list of tables that we've brought in for our demo Lakehouse here. We have a couple of saved queries down below that we've gone through in previous videos. So if you haven't checked those out, make sure to view those. Today, we're going to be using a new query and again, showing how you can surface that information directly in Excel, both from the Fabric interface and starting from the Excel app and connecting to that SQL endpoint. All right, I'm going to pop open a new SQL query window. I'm going to paste in a query here. And before we run the overall query, just going to show you again a count what we're dealing with here. Little over 1 million rows in our main fact table, so nothing huge, but enough to gauge, how we can perform more of a flattened table query here to pull in all of our attributes and our measures that we'd want to include in our analysis in Excel. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. Okay, so we have all of our sales data with our store information, our dates, our products, and our sales rep info. Notice as the menu at the top of the table here, we have a download Excel file. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to guess that Fabric is going to create the connection to this query with the results automatically in my Excel file. Well, let's see what happens. I'm going to open up the file here for my downloads. Bring this over. Enable the content. It's going to give me a prompt here asking if I'm going to approve running this native database query, which I'm going to. And let's see what happens. See at the bottom here, running background query. So it's loading that data in. So now we have those results directly from that query. Same results we just saw in the Fabric interface here. If I go back to my Fabric screen, populated in Excel. So obviously there's a number of things I could do from an ad hoc analysis standpoint with this data. But what I'm going to do here is just quickly create a pivot table view. We're going to go insert.
Holy cow, there's almost 1 million records here. No wonder it took a little longer to download 1 million records than to display 10,000, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time there. So we're going to go into insert pivot table. And hit OK.
Wow.
And voila.
Holy cow. So now that whole pivot tables, or that all that data is available in this pivot table to do additional analysis on. I mean, this is That's fantastic, right? You know, and it's just drag and drop all of your old classic pivot table needs and use cases. A question
Exactly.
for you, Marcus. What if I already have an Excel spreadsheet and I've got analytics in there? I'm doing stuff already. Can I add this query into an existing Excel spreadsheet?
Absolutely, Chris. Because of the SQL endpoint that's exposed that we talked about in previous videos. Again, if
Yeah.
you haven't watched those, go check those out. But we're going to go ahead and retrieve that SQL endpoint and go ahead and let's say I didn't include some of the attributes that I wanted in this larger query here, and I want to leverage some of the other tables in my lakehouse to come in and enhance this model. So I'm going to go ahead and go grab that SQL endpoint. So if I go back to my workspace that my lakehouse is in, and I hover over the SQL endpoint option and hit the ellipsis icon here, more options, I can use this copy SQL connection string.
Oh, and so that SQL connection string that can be used in any program that has a SQL connection. So, like, I can use in Excel here, right?
Exactly. Any third-party tool that supports a SQL database connection, you can leverage that connection string to connect in that tool. All right, so let's say to Chris's point, I want to bring in additional information or leverage another query in an existing Excel workbook that I have. I can do that by going back to my Fabric page here, going to my workspace menu, and by the SQL endpoint option for my lakehouse, and click the more options icon and copy SQL connection string.
Hmm.
I'm going to hit copy there, go back to Excel, go to the data ribbon at the top, select get data on the left hand side from database SQL Server. I want to paste that connection string right in the server window. And then to apply my ad hoc query that I have, I can paste that right into the SQL statement window. So I'm going to go back to my lakehouse view in the service. I'm going to actually pull one of the queries that we used in a previous video here showing the rank by sales rep total revenue 2022. And I'm going to copy that query, go back to Excel, paste it in my SQL statement window here, and hit OK.
There you go.
There it is. And I can either do additional transformations if my query requires it, or I can just hit load here.
Wow.
And you can see the data nearly immediately show up in your Excel workbook. So now I
Wow.
can do cross analysis from my first query to this query, mash that together, create a data model if I wanted to through the Power Query Editor. The options there are all the same experience as you'd be accustomed to with your Excel application.
This is fantastic. So if we start using Fabric, we can use it to integrate with Excel and all of our existing reports like we've always been able to do with any SQL server. Is that right?
You're exactly right, Chris.
Oh,
Fabric integrates seamlessly in a SQL interface and all the third-party tools that support SQL Server connections.
awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Next video, we're going to be going through how we can do the same type of behavior inside of Power BI. I can't wait. Have a great day.